This is a very interesting and potentially very significant story here. Cuba is set to lift a prohibition on professional boxing, which has been in place for 60 years. Now, before you guys start jumping up and down with joy, and on the surface, it certainly looks like a step in the right direction at least, reading this article, it appears as though this professional boxing, quote unquote, in Cuba will be very controlled. So basically, you've got this organization which is going to be putting on several shows a year, professional shows in Cuba, called Golden Ring Promotions. And they're not going to be putting on many shows. I think they said, yeah, here it is, at least 4 events this year. So 4 events in a country of, how many people live in Cuba? 10 million, 15 million or something? 4 events, and that's a country that's absolutely full of boxers. So, it isn't exactly going to become like the United States or Europe or the rest of the world overnight with regards to professional boxing. It appears to be very controlled. The measure of Cuba really changing with regards to professional boxing would be to allow fighters to leave without having to get on rafts, without having to defect when they're fighting in international tournaments overseas. If fighters were just allowed to leave the country and go to the United States and emigrate as they wish, that would be the change that, of course, so many Cuban fighters and professional boxing fans are looking for. I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. There is a leak in Cuban amateur boxing, which has been there for many decades. And the leak I'm talking about is, again, these amateur fighters who are defecting from Cuba and they're heading overseas to seek riches, to seek a good life, because, of course, Cuba is a very, very poor country. That's only a minority of Cuban boxers who end up doing that. The majority of them stay in Cuba. If you open the doors and allowed the Cuban fighters to just go overseas and seek out riches as professionals, what you would get happening is fighters would turn pro a lot younger, right? They would leave Cuba a lot younger and turn pro. And therefore, that would have a negative impact on the Cuban amateur system. There's no doubt. One of the reasons, I was watching an interview with Ishmael Salas the other day, and he was explaining that one of the reasons why Cubans have been so successful in the amateurs is because they have no other choice. So they develop to a certain level in the amateurs where, they've been boxing for, 20 years or something, and they're still amateurs. Whereas in the United States and the UK, most other countries in the world, if you've been boxing for 20 years, you're not still an amateur. You turned pro a long time ago. You might have started boxing at the age of 10. By 20, you're turning pro. By 23, 24 at the latest, if you've been boxing that long. Whereas in Cuba, 23, 24, you've been boxing since you were, 9, 10, you're still amateur. And you might continue as an amateur for the rest of your life or the rest of your competitive life as a boxer, the rest of your boxing life. Whereas if you manage to defect from Cuba, you're going to be however old. How old was Guillermo Rigondeaux when he defected from Cuba? How old was Luis Ortiz when he defected from Cuba? They don't tend to be young men. So, yeah, if you open the doors and you allow people to come and go freely out of Cuba, you're probably going to lose a lot of your amateur talent, and that's going to impact on Cuba in many different ways. But I can't imagine they're going to allow that to happen. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This, to me, is a step in the right direction because it's at least showing that there isn't this ideological opposition as much as there used to be to the concept of professional boxing. Once you start to break down the ideology and you start allowing professional boxing to creep in, it's surely a step in the right direction. I don't know how you could view it in any other way. Of course, they want to try and control it. They don't want it to get exactly as it is in the States or exactly as it is in the UK, but it's better than it going in the opposite direction, right? That's the way I see it. Let me know how you guys see it in the comments below. And there are several Cuban fighters who are looking to turn pro off the back of this and, of course, fight under this promotional company called Golden Ring Promotions. I mean, is that controlled by the Cuban government? You'd have to imagine that it is. People are talking about there could be exploitation going on here where the professional fighters are getting just a tiny amount of money and, the Golden Ring Promotions are going to be absolutely raking it in. Perhaps that will be the case, but even if it's a tiny amount of money, surely it's going to be more money than they would have been getting as amateurs. I'm going to assume that, or else what would the incentive be to partake in these professional fights? There has to be a financial incentive there. So that's my take on it. Give me your take in the comments below. If you're tired of the biased narratives and mass censorship on mainstream platforms, and you want to be part of a community of critical thinkers who love free speech just as much as you do, then come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide variety of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&As, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high quality MP3. We've also got an Element group where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. Unlike Discord, it has full end-to-end encryption, is decentralized, and is 100% censorship free. You can also send voice notes as well as much larger audio and video files than you can on Discord. So come and sign up on Patreon. There's no contract, there's no commitment. You can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So I'll see you over there. I'm out.